Okay, Stefano, last line. Servant wants to drink to me, and then Trinculo's first line, servant monster to follow this island. Okay, so they call him a servant monster, which, we'll just talk about it. It just highlights the fact that Caliban is in servitude to these people. Can you annotate servant monster, drink to me, to say, servitude, Stefano enjoys the role reversal from butler to god. Servitude,
Yeah.
Stefano enjoys the role reversal from butler to god. So Ash, I've just said, Abby, we've highlighted Stefano's first part.
Yep.
Servant monster, drink to me, at the end of his little speech. And we've said that he enjoys the role reversal from butler to god. It's on page 84. Again, Stefano's line, drink servant monster when I bid thee, thy eyes are almost set in thy head. Moon calf, speak once in thy life if thou bearest a good moon calf. So that's Stefano's line about 2/3 of the way down. So just join those two lines, so drink servant monster and moon calf, speak once in thy life. So the gift of alcohol has put Caliban into servitude. Highlight, how does thy honour, Caliban's line, after Stefano's one. Let me lick thy shoe. So Caliban's obedience sacrifices his honour. So he's dropping so far to lick Stefano's shoe to show him that he's going to support him and that he'll do anything that he's asked. But in that same token, he's giving up his dignity and his honour. Okay, so Caliban's obedience or servitude sacrifices his honour. Trinculo. The next line. So at the end of his section, wilt thou tell a monstrous lie, but being but half a fish and half a monster? So can you just write jealousy, tension, and animosity? Okay, because we talked about how Trinculo has been left out, and he's kind of on the outer between Stefano and Caliban, and now Trinculo is getting quite disdainful of Caliban and trying to bring him down wherever he can. Caliban says, lo, how he mocks me. Wilt thou let him, my lord? Highlight that. So just say, receive support from Stefano. And then the very last line of 84, lo, again, bite him to death, I pray thee. Just write natural instinct, or natural violent instinct, page 85. So you can highlight pretty much all of Stefano's first section there. I'm particularly looking at the poor monster as my subject, and he shall not suffer indignity. Okay, so Stefano enjoys his status as god, and Caliban enjoys the rare protection and defense. Okay, enter Ariel invisible, stage direction, and just right next to it, Ariel ever watchful creates tension. And then highlight Caliban's next two lines. As I told thee before, I am subject to a tyrant, a sorcerer, that by his cunning hath cheated me of this island. So just highlight Caliban's next line, as I told thee before. Okay, Caliban's ultimate aim is to regain his freedom and control of the island. Highlights how Prospero's discovery had negative ramifications. You don't have to highlight Caliban's next line. I just want to put a little asterisk in it. Basically, there's just mounting tension between him and Trinculo. And then he turns to Stefano to sort it out. Caliban's next line, I say by sorcery he got this island. From me he got it. The Caliban's next line, so it's a couple of lines down. I say by sorcery he got this isle. From me he got it. Anaphora, A-N-A-P-H-O-R-A, and just put in brackets got. That's the word that makes the anaphora. Reinforces how Prospero stole the island from Caliban through magic. Okay, Caliban's next line, thou shalt be lord of it, and I'll serve thee. Puts his faith in those he believes will free him from Prospero. Will subordinate himself without foresight of consequences. Puts his faith in those who he believes will free him from Prospero. Will subordinate himself without foresight of consequences. Alright, end of 85. Trinculo, run into no further danger. Interrupt the monster one word further, and by this hand I'll turn my mercy out of doors and make a stockfish of thee. Just maybe highlight interrupt the monster up to out of doors. Okay, Stefano's newfound power is causing him to turn against his friend. Page 86, beats Trinculo, stage direction. Highlight that. Resorts to wanton violence, highlighting the low aspect of the human condition. Low aspects. Resorts to wanton violence, W-A-N-T-O-N, so just like unnecessary violence, highlighting the low aspects of the human condition. So yes, just as Stefano and Trinculo, in a very sort of comedic way, represent the low aspects of humanity, Stefano and Antonio represent the low aspects in a more sinister and sort of realistic way, maybe you could say. But they do definitely mirror each other, those four characters. A pox in your bottle. So Trinculo, it's halfway through his second line. A pox in your bottle, this can sack and drinking do. Trinculo highlights how alcohol can bring out the worst. Caliban, beat him enough. After a little time, I'll beat him too. Caliban's brutality and wildness is evident in the use of anaphora. Beat. Caliban's brutality and wildness is evident in the use of anaphora. Beat. Caliban. So he's got a bit of a monologue there. It's the third line, having first seized his books, up to as rootedly as I, which is about halfway through it. So highlight all of that. Having first seized his books, or with a log bat his skull, or paunch him with a stake, or cut out his weasel with thy knife. Remember first to possess his books, for without them he is but a sot, as I am, nor hath not one spirit to command. They all do hate him as rootedly as I. But the first part, beat his skull with a log, stake, whatever, do a little bracket, just up to stake. Caliban feels no remorse regarding this violence. The hate and anger is evident. Stop at nothing for freedom. Okay, next, remember first to possess his books. Do a little other bracket. For without them, he's but a sod as I am. On the other side. So Caliban views Prospero's books and civilization. Caliban sees civilization and books as slavery, also the source of Prospero's power. And that's links to colonization, post-colonial theory. And that's really ironic because, obviously there's language written in books, but Caliban has a really deep mistrust of language and a deep mistrust of Prospero's books because of all the torment that those books have caused him. So any attempt to civilize Caliban from now on is not going to be effective because he's already been marred by the negative aspects of knowledge, how knowledge is power, and that power can be used against people. And also, what's ironic about that is that this hater of language uses the most beautiful language of anyone in the play, and the way he uses it is in stark contrast to some of his cursing and some of his violent tendencies, and we're going to see this in the coming parts. But that links quite closely to post-colonialist theory because, for example, Indigenous people might have a mistrust of authorities and even the school system because of the stolen generation and the treatment. And then that affects future decisions and those kind of things. So the colonizer has negatively impacted upon Caliban, and he'll do anything to be rid of him. Can you do, and that most deeply to consider is the beauty of his daughter. And then also Caliban's next line, I, Lord, shall become thy bed, I warrant, and bring thee forth brave brood. So just do like a little, highlight both those lines, and we're going to do one comment about them. Okay, so he's bargaining with Miranda. Miranda is again a political pawn. Caliban lacks human morality.
What was it, Caliban?
Lacks human morality. Okay, and Stefano's last two lines. Monster, I'll kill this man, his daughter, and I will be king and queen, save our graces. Power has further corrupted Stefano. Discovery leads him to new values, and then in brackets negative. I had a question when I read Caliban's line, one spirit, nor hath not one spirit to command, they all do hate him as rootedly as I. What do you think about that?
Sorry, what was this?
This is just, Caliban just says that all the spirits on the island that Prospero controls hate them.
Ariel isn't hating Prospero.
Isn't it we're not sure
He
how...
feels threatened, maybe, but he doesn't ever express any hate.
But we don't really get to see that side of Ariel very much. Like, you know what I mean? We don't really get her personal.
Well, remember, Ariel was trapped in the tree by Sycorax, so he's probably knows a little bit more about how to interact with
But even when Prospero was yelling at Ariel saying, you know, I freed you from the tree and don't forget what I've done for you, you're ungrateful, Ariel just cowered and was like, it didn't even show any expression of hate, but also just fear.
Yeah. That's like yelling at a dog and it's still gonna whimper. It doesn't mean it's gonna hate you.
It's interesting. I just think, well, maybe, like, do they? We don't know any of the other spirits. There are other spirits on the island. It's not just Ariel, from what I gather. Although it seems Ariel's the most powerful one. But, yeah, I guess that's open for speculation. Obviously, Caliban is either telling the truth or he's not. And they both serve him positively. He's not going to say, everyone else likes Prospero except for me. He's not going to say that. So even if whether it's true or not, he's still going to say the same answer. Don't you agree? About the spirits hating him, hating Prospero. So if they don't, he could just lie and say that anyway. But does he lie? Have you found any evidence of him lying?
No, in the book.
No.
He doesn't outright lie, but I think he's very careful with his
Yeah,
words.
he kind of dances around the
He does dance around it. But, I mean, when he's talking about the evil sorcerer stealing his island, does he believe that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not making that up. I mean, maybe that's not the way it happened, but that's certainly what he feels. So, do we trust Caliban as a reliable source of information, or don't we? So it's interesting that he said that. And yeah, it's up to us to think whether or not we agree with that and whether or not that's true. Okay, so 87. Caliban, thou makes me merry. So that's about a third of the way down. Caliban is delighted. No care for Prospero or Miranda. So he doesn't care about what happens to them. Just excited to be free. Now, I had another question about that, and I thought, is it because of nature, his own nature, that his own personality, his own whatever, or is it because of the treatment? Is it nurture? Is it the treatment that he's received that he doesn't care for them, or is it because of his wildness that he doesn't have a conscience like that?
It's both, because one, he was never taught right or wrong, and therefore the conscience doesn't exist.
Mm.
And two, because he feels he's been done wrong by, and therefore he just feels not the instinct but to hate.
Yeah, it's interesting, and again, it definitely could be both. I just had this question as to the reason behind that kind of approach, because we learned that he's a much more complicated character than what we first think, as we're going to go and see. Highlight: Ariel plays tune on a tabor and pipe. To say discoveries of what is concealed or unseen. Then Stephano, if thou beest man, show thyself in thy likeness. If thou beest a devil, take as thou list. Discovery of unknown causes false courage in Stephano. So it's kind of ignorant. Discovery of what is unknown causes false courage in the ignorant Stephano. You can word it like that. Okay, now highlight all of Caliban's next line, next speech. Up to I cried to a dream again. Caliban uses imagery, just in brackets sensory, so it's oral or auditory, visual, tactile, and olfactory. Emotive language, anaphora, in the word sleep, and natural imagery, so basically just images of nature. Reveals complexity of character and his longing for nature. Discover his deep spiritual, physical, and emotional connection to the island. And lastly, juxtaposition in contrast to his words and actions. Those previous words and actions. Alright, and then just Stephano's next line. This will prove a brave kingdom to me, where I shall have my music for nothing. Arrogance and ignorance from power, worthy ruler. Fresh and intensely meaningful.
Yeah, because we discover the exact way that Caliban feels towards the island.
Yeah, so it's discovery of Caliban's true
Nature.
yeah, it's his true nature, but then the other naughty things he's done is his true nature as well. So true connection to the island. Discover Caliban's true connection to the island. It's actually very stirring, and his language is just beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful excerpts of the play. Okay, varying ramifications.
Stefano's power.
Yeah, they're all negative, aren't they? Stefano's power is the catalyst, isn't it? Because it causes, maybe you could even say the alcohol as well. It causes tension between Trinculo. It causes Caliban to plot against Prospero. Process and experiences differ according to context.
It's Caliban processing the difference between Stefano and
Caliban's Caliban's processing of the difference between Prospero and Stefano. I also think Trinculo, Stefano, and Caliban all react differently to Ariel, to the music. So Trinculo's scared. Stefano's like, "Oh, I'll take you," and Caliban's like, "Look, it's all right. This happens all the time. It's beautiful." Okay, so Caliban, Stefano, and Trinculo's reaction to Prospero. Oh, sorry, Ariel. First time or rediscovery?
Ariel's the
Yep.
both.
Ariel. Do you think maybe there's not really rediscovery there in terms of the leadership, is there, with Caliban?
Not
But
really.
it's sort of
Oh, like he's serving him though.
It's a different type of leadership that's being expressed.
sort of
Rediscovery of servitude though.
Yeah.
Do you
but,
think?
Like, when you really think about it, with the whole like Trinculo being kind of like mean and that to Caliban, and then Stefano like sticking up for him, isn't that sort of the same thing with Prospero and Sycorax?
Sycorax is dead.
And Sycorax was nice to Caliban.
But first time discovery of someone sticking up for him, don't you think? So first time discovery of defense. Because think about it, Stefano's given him this godlike liquor. He's going to kill the tyrant Prospero, and he sticks up for him. So why wouldn't Caliban think that this is a good idea? We obviously know that it's not. Planned or accidental? Accidental and planned, isn't it? Ariel's planned. Caliban's probably been planning to take down Prospero for a while, just hasn't had the opportunity. Impact is far-reaching and transformative.
Stefano's power and the protection he gives Caliban.
Do you think the audience's view of Caliban is transformative when we discover his connection to the island?
And his language.
His language? Yeah?
I sort of have mixed feelings towards Caliban.
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, how do you feel about him? Because he's done these bad things, but then does he know that it's wrong? He hasn't, like, there's so much grey with Caliban. It's a very grey area. Yeah, it can transform our opinions of him for the audience. Challenged or questioned over time.
Prospero.
Yeah, Prospero's like, Caliban questions and challenges Prospero's discovery. So Caliban questions, challenges Prospero's arrival.
And would Ariel also have been challenged because Stefano?
Yep. Ariel challenges. You don't think Ariel challenges Stefano's courage, or?
And he challenges Caliban's as well, because he was going off about how horrible Prospero was, and then Ariel interjected saying, "Thou liest."
Yeah, but he thought that was Trinculo, and that's why they had like a fight. But he was also trying to create trouble there. Leads to new worlds and values. Well, Caliban thinks it's leading to a new world, doesn't he? Because he thinks his world's going to be different when Prospero's gone. But also, Stefano, we assume, has new values now that he's drunk and he thinks he owns the island, and he's got some slave that's worshipping him and calling him a god. That's going to change his value system and his perceptions of himself. Don't you think?
Mm.
Yeah. So,
shift in power leads.
Yeah. Shift in power leads to Caliban and Stefano reassessing values and worlds. New understandings and renewed perceptions of self and the world. Well, we got a new understanding of Caliban. Audience gains a new understanding of Caliban. Do you think Caliban's had a renewed perception
For
of
himself.
himself in the world? Because now that he's got more power, because now that Stefano is powerful and he's protecting Caliban, Caliban feels that he is more powerful as well. I think it has changed the perceptions of all three.